Hey, Zach, thanks for joining me.
Hey, good to see you, Steve.
Good to see you. Hey, we're talking a little bit about the big topic, artificial intelligence. In this case, data center construction. Kind of just wanted to get you on here because you are a bit of a development expert. Not necessarily on data centers, but definitely in general in real estate and taking a piece of land that's got nothing on it and putting something on it. And we're starting to see, we're definitely seeing a real struggle when it comes to data centers being able to be propped up with the demand we're seeing. Um, we're seeing real shortages around and delays in those construction. And that's due to the parts, the property, getting the power. The lead time to get custom cooling systems is 5 times longer than a few years ago for data centers. Delivery times for backup generators has gone from as little as a month to as long as 2 years now. There's also a problem with trying to find cheap land with easy access to sufficient power and data connectivity. So limited amounts of land you can really find. Um, the amount of At the same time, the demand is just really strong. I mean, AI systems are requiring an unprecedented number of chips. I think Chat GPT that came out in 2020 required more than 10,000 NVIDIA GPUs, and a recent upgrade has required significantly more. And that's just, again, driving demand for data centers. We've seen the data center space in the US grew 26% last year. Um, and we're seeing Google's expenditures, over almost half of which are on data infrastructure. Those jumped 45% to 11 billion. But we really are seeing a kind of a delay, a bottleneck here. And just any thoughts you have of kind of knowing the development game and what goes into that in terms of the delays and the bottleneck we're seeing around data centers to enable AI.
So the question is, what kind of real estate development can we do to encourage and support this booming field of technology? Um, well, we've talked through a bunch of policy and some other videos. There is some aspect of that where you want to see, in this case, it would be support for industrial or manufacturing, is my guess. Um, Columbus, Ohio did something with Intel where they made a multi-billion-dollar plant in that area is going to have, I don't know if it's quite a gigafactory, but about the same size and scope to manufacture Intel's chips in the United States, which will then alleviate a large portion of that bottleneck. Why they choose Columbus? Well, there's several reasons. There's the policy, there was grants. That's why everyone first looks at it and comes in. But Columbus also sat with a large amount of area and interconnectivity, both road-wise for in and out ingress, egress, flight-wise, right, with major support in airports. But there's another aspect there, the backbone of the internet, which is basically the fiber. There's a large network that runs throughout the US, and certain pieces and branches of that are better than others. For example, there's one in DC. I'd argue there's some in Texas. Guarantee you there's one in San Francisco. Runs right through Columbus. So they have interconnectivity there. They can bring in people. There's a white collar educated workforce. So they can build their plant there, that all of these factors go into why they chose it. What's that mean for real estate? Um, Guys like us, we can see and kind of understand where these nodes and these different facets intersect and make educated guesses about where places might go and things might be successful. Then you start needing other things like houses. Then you start needing other things like offices, support businesses. You need retail and otherwise. So honestly, my thought about AI and everything else, these bottlenecks with manufacturing, I don't know that you'll be able to catch up quickly enough for everything that they need today. But if you start positioning yourself and seeing where some of these places and things can intersect, you can find areas where growth is going to occur, data centers may be located, and then you're going to see a boom in real estate in those specific areas. I
I
don't know
think
if I
that's
answered
a
your question, but
no,
that's my thought process.
I think it's a great answer because one of the things I'm going to highlight here from what you just said is the trend could continue for quite a while. If there's a bottleneck, if it can't get addressed immediately, the trend of, hey, focus on places that have affordable land, focus on places where the policies or the resources are such to have cheaper energy. Focus, on places where the government's like, provide behind getting projects like this off the ground. You find places like that, yeah, you're going to probably see some data center construction, but you're going to see a lot of other stuff, and it's going to be sustainable. And
Right.
this backlog is one of the reasons it's going to be sustainable. Is there's more demand there than can get immediately addressed, which means the construction is going to be going on for a while and it can be stretched out for a while. And I think that's just something, we're not always looking at, is there a data center in the neighborhood? But we are looking at things like, is it affordable? Is there land to build on? Is the public policy supportive of development efforts? So from an investor perspective, this is just kind of a trend within a trend for us, where some of the areas we're looking at are poised to do well for quite a few years going forward.
Well, that's my warning sign as well. And you said quite a few years and sustainable. The warning here is when you're building the railroads or when you're building oil pipelines or other things like that. You have these little cities and towns that get propped up overnight and they boom, right? When the construction is done and moves on, they all have kind of just turned into ghost towns, disappeared, tumbleweeds rolling through the street, right? You have a bit of an issue with that with data centers too. So you want to make sure when you're thinking about it and pursuing this, that you're choosing sustainable areas more than just
Yeah.
AI and technology coming in. Because if you look at data centers, once they are connected, once they have their power and everything that they need and the land and it's all built and constructed, AI is basically going to run this. Is not a job where you have thousands of people sitting in a data center. You have AI running itself, and the data center is being self-sustained. You could watch a lot of the bottom fall out if you don't have other demand drivers in these areas. So again, I reference Columbus because it actually has a city and a big demand driver on top of just data centers. But other areas outside rural Texas might not be as great for you to want to end up being into. And again, that's why real estate's difficult. I mean, if it was easy, everyone would do it. And even we who do this every day, day in and day out, like to think we're experts for 15, 20 years doing this, right? We're not perfect. We don't get it right all the time. I mean, crystal balls don't exist. So, but it is a thought process that we have before we ever jump into any deal is making sure that we're not buying into a false narrative.
Yeah, and I think, one of the ways you address that is you dig a little bit deeper into the demographic data, into how diverse the economic base is, and you're really looking for those areas where it is going to be sustainable, the population growth. And I think that's a great point too, in that we're seeing some reshoring, as well as data centers, and you got to be careful about those projects that require a ton of jobs to get them up and running, and not a ton of jobs to work them, and make sure you're looking at an area that's got a diverse economic base, that you've got sustainable population growth. Gr- great point, because the robots don't need apartments or restaurants. So
That's
something
true.
else to
At least,
keep
at
in
least
mind.
not yet.
No, they're working on it. Okay, appreciate the insights, Zach. If you enjoyed the video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, and jump on the website selectfincap.com to register to hear any about our upcoming investment opportunities we might be doing around trends such as this. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Steve.